And we're live now. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. How are you, Jeremiah?
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm just looking at here. Yes, okay.
Okay.
Good morning, man. Another episode of Agent Blend, and I know you just got back from what was going to be a home inspection, but tell everyone what happened because I this happens all the time,
Yeah.
and it just walk me through what was going on.
Yeah. So in this case, I'm representing a first-time home buyer, and it's a miracle to get an offer these days, specifically at that price point because it's so competitive to get that accepted. So she's thrilled, and I got a phone call last night that we need to hold off on the home inspection because a pipe burst. Supposedly, it's in the backyard. But they didn't give me a whole lot of details about it. And they said that they wanted their plumber to fix it before we come back for the inspection.
I don't like vague things
No,
like that.
no, I don't either. So I tried to get us in regardless. And they were adamant and they said, no, please, we need to hold off until we get this fixed. So we'll see what happens when the inspection is rescheduled. We'll see.
Let's make sure that the home inspector brings his moisture meter,
Oh, he will.
I still think that's one of the coolest gadgets that those guys have. Those
Yes.
guys and gals have. I mean, they're able to look through walls on the other side of bathrooms,
Right.
Look at ceilings. You remember like when you see those like crazy stains on the ceiling and they
Yes.
go, oh yeah, well that was 3 weeks ago. Everything's dry. I just think it's so cool now that we can, and I'm not talking about just that prong. I'm talking about, are your inspectors using the one where you can see like the screen and you can see the moisture, the digital reading?
Yeah. So they use, at least the gentleman I use, he uses infrared.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
the walls. And so it'll pick up on moisture readings, and we'll be able to get a lot of insight into what's actually going on between the walls without tearing the place apart.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
That's some Superman stuff right there.
It is. It is. Yeah.
We actually have. I'm looking at my list here of headlines. We're going to be talking home inspections. So
that's true.
So stick around for the second headline. But let's kick it off, man. In our first headline was in Inman. It was U.S. home sales tally biggest drop since the start of the pandemic.
Drum roll.
Yeah. I don't know. Should we get scared or what?
I don't think so. I think it's definitely a function of declining inventory. And, at least to start off the year where we're at, I checked the zip code here that we live in. And yesterday, Jeremiah, there were a total of 7 detached homes for sale. 7. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So yeah, if the rest of the country is anything like what we're experiencing here, there might be a drop off of home sales because there aren't homes to sell at the moment, right? So yeah, but demand is strong, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Demand is strong. And I think, I don't know, any of these articles, they want eyeballs. And I think this headline was just trying to get eyeballs, trying to get people to, to stay on this Inman site. And everything they were saying, I'm just thinking, okay, is this really news? It's not new. This has been going on even before the pandemic. And so, I was looking at, they had mentioned some of the extremes of this low inventory, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, San Jose, but, California in general. We're seeing the super low numbers. And yes, they're low numbers, but it's because of that low inventory. The only place they cited in the article, I think, was Detroit, that saw an uptick in more listings.
Right.
But I think it makes sense in certain areas that, didn't appreciate quite as much, that you're going to just see homes sticking around a little longer. And when we see everyone relocating and moving around all over the country, not as many people are going to Detroit, right?
That's right.
So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely right. So I think a lot of the people from last year as well that maybe missed out on a home or two or three are still in the market, and they know that the interest rates are going to be going up over the course of the year. At least that's what they've been told, and so they want to get in.
mhm.
And one, I think it was that particular article. One good point they made is that there's going to be a number of sellers that are going to put their homes on the market before the interest rates uh, go up too much more, because of course that's going to impact the purchasing power that buyers have if it's a financed deal. So, um, I would be in the same boat if I was looking to sell a home. You do it soon. You do it at the beginning of spring, and not hold off for the tail end and into summer, because those rates are going to tick up.
Sure, sure.
So,
I have to butt in there and say, because you were talking about, oh, if I'm a seller, I want to sell right now.
mhm.
John, we're in such a bubble. Oh, speaking of that, I forgot to put up the little, hey, look at
There we
that.
go.
Home sales dropping.
Make it
I should probably
official.
put a question mark on there. We're in such a bubble of being fortunate enough to put new homes on the market right now.
Mhm.
I'm talking to other agents around the country, and they're going, well, yeah, I mean, we can put it on the market, but there's also 3 to 4 feet of snow, that's
Right.
that's all around us. So,
Point.
I mean, I wish we had someone on today, another agent from one of those regions, that we could just say, like, what do? You have a client that says, hey, I want to cash out now. I want to sell my property, but what, I mean, how do I do that when we have a blizzard coming in next month?
Right.
So yeah, I find that kind of fascinating that, we have to gauge timing in other parts of, the nation, where here it just seems like it's like selling stock. It's like when you're ready to sell, you just toss it on the market. But
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, that's one of the big appeals, right? That people
sure.
come here from. I talked to a gentleman the other day who grew up in Chicago, and he's been here for 4 years, and he has a growing family. Anyways, long story short, he's like, yeah, it's a beautiful thing not to have to go out to my car 15-20 minutes before I need to leave for work to turn it on, warm up the engine, shovel the driveway, go through all those steps. You just don't have that here.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
had to Google the other day why diesel trucks keep their engine running. I'm like, I don't understand, in idling. And they're like, oh yeah, yeah. It's because when they're in cold weather, they want to keep everything warm. They want to keep the fuel warm.
Yeah.
I'm so out of it, man. I just don't have a pulse on weather or what weather really is.
And how it impacts the machinery and transportation at large, and but,
How it
no,
impacts real estate, how it impacts anything like
right.
that.
Yeah, that's
But
funny.
yeah. So overall, this article, I mean, I don't know. It just seemed kind of overhyped. They were even talking about how, some markets look like some of the grocery store
Right.
shelves, that were completely empty. And yeah, it's called, it's called, buy. Well, no, the best way they put it is the demand is growing faster than the supply.
Hmm.
And as long as we're going to continue to see that, there's going to continue to be a shortage.
Right.
So even if inventory does go up, there's a heck of a lot more buyers that are continuing to come into the market. So
That's right.
yeah,
That's
so I don't see a big change there.
Yeah, and actually something else to consider too is that a lot of families, which we talked about in previous episodes, are moving in together.
Mhm.
And so, maybe the kids have been renting for a long time, and mom and dad either have a larger property and the kids build an ADU on the property, or vice versa with mom and dad. We're starting to see more and more of that, which on one hand could free up more inventory if mom and dad have a a home that they want to sell and then go in on a larger property with the kids. But on the other hand, maybe it's just the opposite, that the kids have been renting for a while. Mom and dad have a big piece of land or a big home, and they could section that off and all live together as a family that way.
Mhm.
So there's different games that are being played right now, but yeah, I'm hopeful that we see some more inventory shake loose as spring really gets underway here and into the beginning of summer. Um, I'm hopeful, but buyers need to be very, very serious right now and prepared to go to battle and to put their best foot forward right out of the gates.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we've talked about that at length.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a healthier market where, yes,
Mhm.
there is more inventory as well, but that doesn't mean that, I think you'll agree that buyers can pull off the gas pedal. They have to
Yeah.
be aggressive.
Right.
So
Exactly.
cool,
So,
man.
so that being said, right, it kind of ties into our next article here, which is the number one mistake that buyers should avoid in a hot real estate market, right?
Hmm.
And so people are trying to craft their offers in a way that gets them to stand out. And why wouldn't they, right? And why wouldn't the good real estate professionals coach their clients on just how to do that and how to put that offer package together? But there's certain no-nos, right, Jeremiah?
Well, I don't know. I want to get your take on this one, and then I want to talk about our different strategies. But what was the main one in this article?
So this article talked about some buyers waiving their home inspection.
Hmm.
So, in other words, there's different contingencies involved in the residential purchase agreement that could be written in. And some people decide that they're going to waive, let's say, an appraisal contingency or a loan contingency or a buyer due diligence and inspections contingency. Well, one of the most important things you can do when you're buying a house is to know what you're buying. And the only way that you're going to know what you're buying is if you look underneath the kimono and see what is going on. That's why we were talking about earlier that the infrared that they can use to see through walls to see if there's any moisture back there and what the cause might be. So it's very important for a home buyer to get a general home inspection. And then based on that, you can decide if you need to follow up with a plumber, a roofer, an electrician, somebody to take a look in more detail. But that's critically important. Now, there are times though, Jeremiah, where maybe the client doesn't care. And that's kind of not the norm for me and my clients, but maybe you're working with an investor who says, Jeremiah, I really don't care. I'm going to tear the place apart anyways. It doesn't
Hmm.
it doesn't matter to me. Or I literally I'm gonna flatten the house and I'm gonna rebuild new. It doesn't matter to me. What's more important is that I know the property lines and I know what's going on in the neighborhood at large and what the building codes are and things like that. But that's not the norm. So for your typical home buyer, the home inspection is one of the most important things that you can do, and you want to get that done right away.
Well, and the way I approach it too, as I approach even with the asking, with what we're going to ask or what we're going to offer as far as a price, is
Hmm.
what is my client's emotion to the home?
Hmm.
Because we know we have a variety of different buyers. We have those that just want just a screaming deal, even in
Right.
a seller's market. But they're gonna offer, they're gonna lowball. We have people that are they want to have their name in the ring, but they're not gonna panic, or they're not gonna just go crazy if they don't win in the multiple offer situation. And then we
Yeah.
have our clients that come in that are just saying, Jeremiah, they are in a state of panic. They go, I have to have this place. And that's how I help guide my clients with what price they're going to offer. And that's
Hmm.
also how I discuss and talk about the home inspection.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, we do have clients that go, I could care less. I'm planning on demoing this whole thing, like you talked
Right.
about with in an investor.
Right.
So to me, that's kind of my starting point there. And that's where I felt like, even though this article was heavily into you have to have an inspection, or excuse me, because I think this is important, that you shouldn't waive your home inspection.
Right.
I thought that was too simple of just saying that's the biggest mistake. I think it's a lot deeper than that,
Hmm.
because you can alter what type of inspection you have. Like I do a number of things. First, I try to have some dialogue with the seller's agent. And is the concern that the seller has is that every small item they're just going to be nickel and dimed on, and whether it's cosmetic or whether there's a broken
Right.
pipe, are they just going to get slammed with all these requests for repairs?
Right.
And if I feel like I can have that candid conversation with the seller's agent and find out, hey, listen, they just don't want to be nickel and dimed, then I just make that very clear that we need to do an inspection because we just want to make sure there's no safety issues. We want to make sure
Sure.
that there isn't any active gas, electric,
Mhm.
foundation, water, anything massive that's going to cause a safety issue.
Right.
And in my experience, sometimes that's enough. I mean, sometimes if we're not up against 30 other offers and it's just a handful, and I'm able to communicate that to the seller side, that they can say, okay, well, we like all of your other terms, and it sounds like you're going to be reasonable.
Hmm.
So I would say that that's my first go-to. My second, especially when some of these agents don't even pick up the phone and they won't even talk to you,
Yeah.
which is
That's
tough, right?
true.
Because how do you gauge it?
Right.
Is I talk to my client, and if my client, and we're not even going to talk about when we have an investor that wants to bulldoze the place, because I think that's pretty obvious. Why mess around with
Right.
an inspection? But I come into the packaging together the offer, and if they say we have to have it, and I want to make sure that they have that inspection in there as a contingency, then I shorten it down to a 3 to 5 day inspection period. In writing, at least, I remind the seller's agent that yes, we're not going to nickel and dime you on anything. We're just looking for safety issues. But sometimes I'll even take it a step further, and I'll actually put in an as-is clause that the buyer and seller agree that there will be no compensation or no repairs performed.
Mm.
So you still get your inspection contingency. And
Right.
if there's some just crazy shit that
Yeah.
you can't get over, you can still cancel the contract.
Right.
But in advance, you have waived any right to ask for anything. And I've had some clients that they're just not comfortable with that. But I tell them, listen, at least you'll be able to find out about the property. You'll be able to evaluate what it's going to cost to fix those repairs. And then it's your decision.
Well, right. And then if something does come up, again, depending on the market and how competitive it is, and what offer price you're at, um, it's not unheard of for the sellers to work with the buyers towards a solution.
You nailed it on the head there, and that's what I try to communicate to them as well, because sometimes the sellers don't even know about something.
Right.
And if it's massive enough where they had no clue about it, and it's a $30,000,
Hmm.
$50,000 issue, number
Yeah.
one, they're going to have to disclose it to the next buyer.
Right.
And number two, they're going to have to deal with it somehow. They're going to have to find someone that will overpay, or
Hmm.
will pay themselves. So yeah, I think that's a really good point, and that's a really good reminder that even though in my offers, that when I write in that as is clause, there's still room to negotiate. There's always room,
Right.
to negotiate
Right.
there. And one more thing I do, and then I'll let you chime in. Um, I pre-schedule the home inspection. So when I present the offer, I
Hmm.
say, we have the home inspection scheduled for this Friday at 3 o'clock. Also
Right.
let us know And it's just a good way to show, listen, we're not messing around. My buyer's serious. We've
Right.
already scheduled the inspection.
Yeah. No, that's actually something that's really smart. Yeah. Because it can always be canceled, right? If you don't get your
Absolutely.
offer accepted, okay, we're canceling it. Yeah. No, I think those are really good points, Jeremiah. And it goes back to, well, such a big part of making a deal come together is you as a real estate professional and the level of communication and transparency with the other real estate professional and vice versa. And so the deals that, maybe in certain cases would be a deal breaker, but because you have two professionals on each side of the deal, it'll come together. Because in most cases, the sellers and the buyers, they don't do this all the time like we do. They don't know what, is something that should be of real concern to them, or how it could be approached, or maybe a different angle of thinking about the situation. So those are all things to consider. And when you take that stance of, hey, this is more of a team effort, whether it's the buyers and sellers thinking that they're a team, or the buyer's agent and the listing agent thinking they're a team. If you get into that mindset, you're much more apt to close the deal and to have parties that are happy and satisfied on both ends of that deal. So again, it goes back to, I guess that's a plug for hiring someone who's a pro, who knows what they're doing and knows how to communicate effectively. So
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more on that one. I mean, it's and that's why it bothers me even more when we're not able to have that dialogue up front with a seller's agent, just because it's at the end. And I think the better ones will make themselves available.
Yep.
But newer agents that are representing sellers don't understand. Listen, if you have two offers that are the exact same, but that buyer's agent doesn't have a clue what they're doing, they're not going to be a person to facilitate a smooth transaction. When we reach this hurdle about the home inspection, or this hurdle about an appraisal. Right. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I have to ask you, I heard that an agent brought a home inspector with the buyers to their first viewing of the property. I've never done that. Have you ever heard that?
No. In certain cases, I've had people bring a contractor with them to take a look at a home, but that's pretty rare.
Yeah. No, but I'm talking about, but on the first viewing, right? That's what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. So in this example is an open house for a place in Del Mar that was real old, that either could be built out or demolished. And they ended up bringing a contractor in there with them for the first time they saw the house. That's one thing, but to actually have a home inspector with you the first time you see the home, that's a little bit of a turnoff. So
the home inspector will take your money.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I had heard about that. I've never encouraged my clients to do that, but
yeah,
I don't know. Everyone has their own comfort level, so
they do. I do like what you said about, when you actually submit the offer saying that you already have the home inspection scheduled. That makes sense, but that's a little overkill to bring your home inspector friend with you.
I think so too. Unless you have more to talk about home inspections, I wanted to actually know what you think. Okay, let me rephrase this question. What is the biggest mistake that buyers make? Is it waiving home inspections for you?
No. I think the biggest mistake a buyer can make is to have just a toe in the water right now. If someone is serious about wanting to purchase something, they need to first off, they need to hire someone that knows what they're doing, right? And has a system in place that's been proven, because it's hyper competitive right now. But the biggest mistake that I see is mindset, is someone not being fully committed to moving forward. And if they're not, then they're going to consistently lose out on the home. They're, multiple homes, multiple offers. They're going to get very frustrated, and they would have been better off just not even entering the market at all. They would have been better off just sitting back and relaxing and not spending that mental energy on trying to get an offer accepted. So I would say the biggest mistake is not being 100% committed to winning. And I've seen it. I've seen it on both sides, where I've had people say, "Hey, John, I was just referred to you. I want to buy a house, and I need to be out of my place in a month, and I need to find something basically immediately." And I'll say, "Okay, these are the steps that you need to take, and here's what I'll do, and these are the expectations." And when they execute and they show you that they're serious about it, it happens. It can happen very quickly, where you can get them into a house and they'll end up winning. But they need to listen to you, because, like Jeremiah, you're the expert in your area, and you know what's going on. You have boots on the ground knowledge. But anyways, all that to say, in my personal opinion and based on what I've seen, it's mindset.
I like it. I like it. No,
Yeah.
I do. No, I think that, um, I don't know if I would say my worst buyer mistake. To me, it's just different. To me, it's price.
Yeah.
Um, I think that, I don't know. Maybe it kind of ties into what you're saying, but at the end of the day, if you are letting your emotions dictate so much of what you have to have right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I have that candid conversation with you. Yeah, John, I'm sure you're just like me. When you talk to when you talk to a buyer that says, I have to have this place, I love this place.
Yeah.
And you go, didn't you tell me that your job is relocating you here and that you may be leaving in a year? There's a different level of guidance
Right.
we're going to be giving our clients if we know they're here for just a short time, or if we know that they're here for 5, 10+ years,
Right.
on what you should be doing at certain emotional price points when you're offering on a home.
Right.
And to me, that's where I have that candid conversation with my buyers is, okay, what's your level of emotion to this home? But whether or not you have to have it, or it's something that you're willing to walk away from, I'm still telling them this is where I think value is.
Right.
And as long as my clients understand this is where, as a professional, we believe value is, then I'm okay with them doing what they want to do. But I would say the biggest mistake is just going, I have to win at all costs, and potentially being that outlier in that neighborhood,
Yeah.
and being that property where you did overpay. And you know what? There's not that many other people that they couldn't even go to another buyer in the multiple offer situation that was even remotely close.
Right.
And now you're just keeping your fingers crossed that we just have this continued, 20+%
Right.
gain on values. And I mean, in my opinion, that type of appreciation obviously isn't sustainable. And so there is a science to, let's evaluate what's going on, and how long we can estimate that we can see a return over the years. So yeah, to me, the biggest mistake is just price, is just getting too anxious, and paying too much for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. No, I
But
totally agree with you, especially when it comes to real estate. People will buy emotionally, and then they'll
mhm,
justify logically.
sure.
So they'll buy, they're hyped up. I'm pumped. I know there's going to be 20 other offers on this house. I've got to have it, Jeremiah. It's listed at 1 million. We're going to offer 1.6.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Um, Great. Well, you know that there's no comparable sales that support that. You know that we've seen this huge uptick in appreciation over the last year and that it's not sustainable. We know that you're going to be relocating or likely relocating in like a year and a half to 2 years. There's all these things. So it goes back to why they're purchasing. And if the why checks out and they're comfortable, quote unquote, overpaying for a
Yeah.
property, God bless them.
Yeah. Yeah. Go for it. Go
Yeah.
for it. Go for it. And I've had clients like that. I mean, it's to me, I sleep well at night because I know I educated them. And I know,
Right.
John, you do the same thing.
Right.
As long as we've educated our client, then
Yeah.
they can submit the lowball offer, or they can submit that offer that just they have to win it, you
Right.
know.
Right.
So
Yeah, but and exactly, Jeremiah, like you said, you're being transparent with them. You're giving them accurate real estate information and knowledge that's based on facts. It's based on you actually being in the marketplace and helping people do this day in and day out. But yeah, everybody's reason is slightly different, and their level of motivation is slightly different. And yeah, there's no one size fits all. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad we went there because I just think, yeah, inspections are a big deal, but there's so many different tactics you can use to get around it or keep it involved.
Right.
That yeah, I think what we finished off there are bigger issues than the inspections themselves.
Right.
But
Right. Exactly.
cool,
Yeah.
man. Well, then why don't we hit our last topic from the Business Wire? I thought this one was interesting. This
Yeah.
one, I, I didn't see this in the news at all. The headline was 1 in 10 home buyers and sellers say climate risk is a main reason for moving.
Hmm.
And I think it was a study. Was this the study by Redfin? I think it might have been.
Yeah. This was a red fin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and again, going back to kind of like the little bubble that we live in, I really didn't. I don't know. I was just kind of surprised by it because I feel like being coastal, Southern California, San Diego.
Hmm.
Um, I joke when the temperature goes above 75, I panic. When it goes below 65, I panic. I'm soft and I'm willing to say it on camera.
I love it.
But
Yes.
I mean, taking a person like myself that is just completely used to a climate that doesn't deviate by any extreme elements. And we see our weather. We got
Hmm.
a couple days of rain the other day.
We did.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking, okay, well, geez, that we got our winter storms coming through.
Right.
So, not to poke too much fun at myself, but that's what I'm used to. And so when I saw an article like this, I just thought, well, what's the big deal? I mean, I didn't, it took me a while to realize that there is more going on. And it's even in California, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, certain parts of California, you could argue even where we're at,
Yeah.
you're going to have quote unquote natural disasters, right, that take place, such as what we experience here in Southern California, fires. So we do have fire seasons, and then after that, of course, then we'll get hit with rain, and then that'll lead to mudslides and other issues. So that is real, and there's certain areas, of course, that are at much higher risk than others. Um, but yeah, for example, my uncle owned a place in Santa Barbara, up in Montecito Hills, and that home was burnt to the ground, and that was a
Wow.
number of years ago. But a lot of the huge estates up there went up in flames, and yeah, so it does happen. It comes with the territory, and the further back in the brush and in the hills you are, the higher the risk. And so Now, builders have to take more of a precaution, and even use in certain circumstances other materials that will hold up much better to fires, in that case. But fire is just one. In other areas, let's say parts of Florida, for example, you run the risk of hurricanes and flooding, and there's going to be risk at the end of the day wherever you go. But these areas that have a history of natural disasters that can demolish your house or bring it to its knees effectively, you're going to pay less in general to be in those areas than you will in other parts of the United States that maybe don't run that risk. So it's give and take, and it's up to the buyer at the end of the day to determine what level of risk they're willing to live with. I mean,
I just feel like where we live, what's that development? If you're heading over to Temecula on the 15, like just east of Bonsall,
right?
Right at that 15.
Hidden Meadows there.
Hidden Meadows, yeah. Is that those are the ones that like they're literally built in a flood zone area right there?
Yeah, the ones that I'm thinking of there are some dips in there, but there's also some higher points. Their big risk is fire back there. But yeah, I think you're talking about another development, Jeremiah, that sits way down in the valley.
Yeah, way down in the valley, just on the east side of the 15.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where you get off that exit and it's just right around that corner right there.
Yeah.
And I remember taking some clients out there and the listing agent, showing me like, yes, I just want to be very upfront. This is in a flood zone. And we're not talking about flood zones when, you have like 20, 30, 50 feet where you're near a creek. I'm talking about they're in a what would be in a normal, weather that we would have here with water. Some of these homes would have water all the way up, to their driveway. And I don't know. I feel like, especially here, we get away with so much, and then a fire will come by, or the fire season will come through and get a lot of people in trouble. But we just don't see as much of it as they do in Northern California, and then just the rest of the country.
That's right. Yeah, I've even had another family member who literally had a volcano erupt and take his house out.
Where?
In Hawaii.
Jeez.
So it's one of those things where, again, you weigh the risk.
Yeah.
This particular volcano hasn't erupted in a couple hundred years.
Yeah.
Not really due to erupt, and even if it does, we're kind of up on a hill, so we should be okay. No, it's under 12 feet of molten rock.
You can't really spray a hose and kind of cool it down in time.
No, you get the heck out of there. And that was really unfortunate because there was all sorts of exotic trees and other plants, and then wildlife, and that's Mother Nature. She doesn't care.
I remember seeing a YouTube and then seeing the neighborhood on one of the islands taping it, and it was just like overtaking their road. And it's not moving fast, but it's destroying anything that it's touching. I mean, it's lava, right? That's just crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's so freaky because it's like you said, it's moving slow. Nothing can stop it.
Yeah.
Like literally, what's going to stop lava, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. The other thing that this article, they touched upon it, was the whole concept of just the climate change and using extreme heat as one of those issues.
Right.
And I do have to admit that is something, because like we're not, where we live, we're not right on a bluff above the coast. So we
Right.
don't get the marine layer all the time.
Mhm.
And so that those summer heats or those late fall heats have been getting warmer and warmer. And I can only imagine what it's like for our family out in Temecula or our family out,
Yeah.
further east. Of course, Arizona is the other states that are further inland.
Right.
So I guess something has to be said for that as well, too, right? That people are deciding they're gauging what's going on over there. How many feet of snow is that town in Montana getting? How hot is it? In Phoenix, and then just saying, yeah, no, I've had enough of that. I want to be able to be outside.
Right.
So I guess that's what this article's saying, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just getting more extreme.
Right. It's getting more extreme. And of course, in those areas that do get really hot, like Las Vegas, for example, and the surrounding suburbs out there, uh, you know, if the air conditioning goes off and it's 115 degrees outside or 120, which does happen out there,
Mhm.
and especially if you're an older person, that's that's putting you at serious risk, very serious risk. So that's something to consider as well, is your age, your health, um, and ultimately that should be a huge factor. It really should be in where you move. Yeah, you can buy a lot more home in Las Vegas than you can here on the beach in San Diego, for
Mhm.
example. But is it worth it? You're in the
Yeah.
middle of the Mojave Desert versus
Yeah.
on the beach. So
Well, and the article even said that I think it was twice as likely for a second time home buyer to be thinking about climate
mm,
because they had been in that situation where there was a flood.
yeah,
They had seen the air conditioner go out and that they were stuck in that situation. And because they're older, they're like, no, I'm not dealing with this anymore. Where
right,
these youngsters, these first time home buyers are like, yeah, I can live wherever. This is just a
yeah,
better deal.
right,
So
exactly, yeah,
yeah, I know it's not talked about as much, but I just thought this was interesting. It was definitely making me think a little more about why people are coming here
hmm,
and about where we're seeing people head off to in our nation
right,
just because of the changes.
right, exactly, and quite frankly, making us really appreciate where we live.
Yeah,
My goodness,
yeah,
so
yeah. No, it's. I saw you look outside. Yeah, it's another nice day today. I
yes,
am
it
a
is.
man. Did you have anything else on this one, or did you have anything else you wanted to include about what's going on in your world?
Um, no, I mean, I'm actually really excited for my mother-in-law. She's in the process of tearing apart a duplex, and she's going to put a third unit on it. And just submitted the plans yesterday to the city, so that's coming together, and it's going to be really cute. And I got to hand it to her because she's she's going to take a place that was pretty much just a dump, and make it amazing, make it incredible. So I'm kind of excited to do something similar to that when I can here in hopefully the near future. So
That's cool. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
And next week we have a special guest, JD Miller. He's an agent out of Virginia joining us.
okay,
So it'll be exciting to get to see his perspective on the different headlines that we're discussing. Um, but always a fun day with you, man.
yeah. Likewise, Jeremiah. Likewise.
All right. Oh, and before we get out of here, I am going to. I don't think I dropped the
Yeah,
link.
let's do a photo.
Last article. Oh, we'll do that. We'll do that off air. No one needs to see that. Yeah, I just wanted to put
Yeah.
I wanted to put the link to our last article on there, just so it
Okay.
was posted online, and let that go through. All right, my man. I think it went through. Have a fantastic day. Look forward to next week and our special guest, and enjoy the San Diego weather.
Will do. You too.
All right, see you, buddy.
See ya. Bye bye.